Hey there, it's Devi Adea, the host of the Spiritual Entrepreneur Podcast, the Podcast on Purpose podcast, and the creator of Podcast on Purpose Online Academy. I know there are a lot of places you could be today, and I just want to honor you and acknowledge you for taking the time out to work on your personal development, to build your business and your podcast platform, and to spend this time with me today while we talk about high vibe podcasting for the soulful podcaster on purpose. I am so excited and delighted to get to share this time with you. We're going to be covering a lot, but I just wanted to take a quick minute and say hi face to face. So here we go. Okay, so welcome you. I'm really excited to share with you, as I mentioned, this high vibe podcasting webinar. This is really for the soulful podcaster on purpose. And we're going to be talking today about how you can attract your ideal soul tribe without overcomplicated strategies, really focusing in on the energy of your show, which is something that we literally don't talk enough about. So you're in the right place if you dream of being able to have a podcast that grows your mission and message in the world, but you're struggling with being seen and or growing your show in a way that really feels good to you. Or maybe you've tried a bunch of strategies already to either launch your show or grow your show with little or no success. And or you're not sure what to do next. You know, you've been trying things and you're like, okay, well now what? Or you have a vision of how you want your show to be, and you're called to share your message, that soulful mission that you have in the world, but you haven't yet achieved what you're calling in. And you really want to figure out kind of how to do that, what's next for you. And finally, if you're ready to break free from whatever's holding you back so that you can up-level your life, your business, and your show, what we're talking about here today will absolutely help with that. So I'm really glad you're here. If this applies to you in any way, you're in the right place. So here's the thing. If you are experiencing any of these symptoms where you are not able to kind of move to that next level, I really want you to get that it's not your fault that you're experiencing this. We're taught oftentimes a lot of strategies, and we are told that they're going to work for us. They work for someone else, therefore they will work for us. But what isn't usually addressed is the energy and the consciousness, or what I like to call the vibe, that is working behind the scenes when we're taking these strategies and implementing them. You know, we talk a lot about mindset, but we don't always talk about the energy that we are creating with and the consciousness that is running, that is actually creating our life experience. And we're really not given a complete picture or taught how to see what is aligned with us in a way that creates success. And today we're going to talk about that. So my promise to you, by the end of our time together, you will learn how to align your show's voice with your soul's voice so that you can attract and grow your ideal audience and tribe without super complicated strategies in a way that feels good to you. I'm going to share with you 5 high vibe podcasting secrets. We're going to talk about how to set the energy that is creating your results so that you can attract what you want for your podcast in a way that feels good and is easy, regardless of whatever aligned strategy you choose. But first, in case you are meeting me for the first time, my name is Devi Adea. I am the host of the Spiritual Entrepreneur Podcast and the Podcast on Purpose podcast, as well as the creator of Podcast on Purpose Online Academy. I've helped a lot of people launch their own shows, and I've been podcasting since 2016 on a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. So, I've been on this journey with you, and I know how you may feel. For years, I felt the fear of being seen. I was terrified to share my truth. I grew up in a very mystical family in Washington, D.C., but also very cosmopolitan. And I learned from a very young age that my spiritual gifts were not something that was fully accepted in the world at the time when I was growing up. And I cloaked them for many, many years. And that was a part of me that I was so afraid people would find out, and that I would literally be locked in a rubber room and have them throw away the key. I know all too well the inner pull that says that there is something else that you are meant to express, but not knowing what or how to get there. I felt that for many years, this like, there's something else, there's something I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't know what it is, feeling pulled towards that. I've been overwhelmed with and frustrated by strategies that didn't do what they promised, even though I saw that they were really valid and they work for other people. I bought so many online courses trying to figure out the next thing in trainings and seminars and things. And I couldn't understand why they were working for these people, but not for me. It took me a long time to come to realize that there was something else that was working behind the scenes for me and that things needed to be aligned. And I also know what it's like to be held back by some invisible force that you can't seem to counter, no matter how much action you throw at it. I've really tried everything in my life when I was trying to kind of figure out how to find fulfillment and to grow my mission, my message, my soul's voice in the world. And, I wrote a kid's book. I worked in corporate for a long time. I did foreign currency trading. I did a gazillion online courses, coached for someone else, one of the leaders in the industry. I did summits, speaking, music, live events, meetups, article writing. And these were all things that at that time, experts and gurus told me I should be doing. But what I found was, I ended up more lost than before I started doing those things and taking the training. And no matter what I tried, I still couldn't figure out how to experience the fulfillment that I was so desperately wanting to create. I felt that pull all the time. Then one day I decided to launch my podcast. I was on a plane trip from San Diego to DC and back again, and I listened to a podcast on podcasting, and I knew it was something I was meant to do. And when I was starting out, I put this picture here because I think it's funny, not because that's where I lived, but that was actually, I was in DC, and that was the night that I launched my show. That day, I actually recorded my first intro episodes for my show. And the apartment that I would normally stay in when I was in Washington was being worked on. And so that is actually my cousin's childhood bedroom. I don't know if you can see the green fuzzy towel on the table there, but I was doing whatever I could to get myself to do my podcast. And it sounds really good. It just doesn't look very good. Thank God for no video. But I waited to the very end to actually share my story, which is how you oftentimes will launch a show. You have a few episodes, and your first episode is kind of your origin story and why you've chosen to do your show. But because I was so terrified to share my truth and be, seen, and fully trusting my own soul, I waited to the very last day to do it. And at that point, I was really afraid. Like, I was terrified that they were going to, come and lock me away, because I was starting to talk about spirituality. And that was something that had been very near and dear to me my whole life. But, I learned at a young age that it wasn't safe. And so I launched my show that night. Nothing terrible happened. And I started to get to know amazing spiritual entrepreneurs on my show. And I started to see that it was okay to start to express that part of myself. And I started to grow and learn and express in ways that started to align my soul's voice with my show's voice. And after I launched my show, I finally became comfortable with my own unique gifts and message. And over this time, have allowed my intuition and my soul, rather than what I thought I should do, to guide and direct my show, my life, and my business in a way that's really aligned with me and feels so good. And when we feel good, we attract very differently. And so now fulfillment, the one that I had been seeking all that time through many different versions of myself and journey, is a reality in the way that I live life rather than a destination that I'm seeking. And today, the path I took finally gave me the freedom to feel aligned with my message, my truth, that part of me that I had been hiding for so many years, and to recognize that my show's voice that I'm putting out into the world, that vibration, is meant to be my soul's voice. And I spend my time surrounded by extraordinary and amazing spiritual entrepreneurs, conscious leaders, and bright lights in the world who are uplifting humanity with all of our gifts collectively. And what I was afraid to fully embrace before, and, really terrified that they'd find out about me, I've come to know is actually one of my unique and amazing superpowers. Life is really good now, but it took me going through a bit of the fire to get to this place where I can actually be in alignment with myself. We've had some surprising results. We have over 262 plus episodes now on just the one show, The Spiritual Entrepreneur. I have two. I've had incredible guests from princes to presidential candidates to, best-selling authors to, just amazing healers, extraordinary people on the show that have really, I've learned so much from each week, and almost like forced learning because, for a long time I was just doing interviews in addition to some, intermixed solo episodes. But it's been fantastic, and my own personal development journey, as well as just been the relationships that we've created, have been amazing. I've been featured multiple times as an icon of influence in new media. Our show was listed as number 5 in the top 25 podcasts to get you through quarantine in Podcast Magazine in 2020. I know we've all went through a lot last year. We've been ranked number 1 in our category in countries I've never visited, and ranked high up in the charts all over the world in so many countries. I couldn't list them all here. There's not enough room, including the US, Canada, France, Ireland, Sweden, Australia, Great Britain, Jordan, Germany, Italy, New Zealand, so many. Turkey. Been featured on other radio shows, stages, and media that have come from having my own show. And I've helped a bunch of other podcasters launch their shows as well, as I mentioned earlier. But I almost didn't. I almost picked a safe show topic rather than focusing on spiritual entrepreneurship and going into that spiritual side of myself. And I almost missed my calling. I was terrified to share that spiritual side, my true gifts. I almost didn't launch. I was so afraid of being seen that I almost didn't allow myself to start my show. You saw that picture of me sitting in the bedroom. I was so scared. I remember just being terrified and shaking. I could have very easily questioned myself out of my show. Like, who am I to teach this? I think we do that a lot. We question ourselves and our inner gifts and what we have to give to the world. Maybe you can relate to that. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to figure it all out. The tech seemed so complicated, even for me, who went to Carnegie Mellon and worked in high tech for years. I used to program applications, without having a teacher at that time to learn from. I had to figure it out myself, and I did. But at the time, it seemed like a lot. Now things are way easier than they were back then. But I was also leaning into those tech gifts and the business gifts, and not really always giving myself the space to be on my spiritual side, which now I live very fully in. And I almost gave up after launching. Editing was a lot of work, and my show was not growing fast enough for me in the beginning. I almost turned my show into someone else's. I had a hard time saying no to people. I felt like I should give them a platform to share their message and their voice, because it's something I'm very passionate about, is having people serve the world through their unique gifts and their soul's voice. And that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. So it's hard to say no to people who wanted to be on the show. And I didn't always put my audience or my own soul's voice first. And really, the show's there for the audience and expressing the voices of our souls collectively, but what's going to serve them. I almost missed out on the greatest gift of my show, which was following what other people said that I should do. Almost cost me the best advice and gift that I could have ever received. And that was the expression of my own soul's voice in service to humanity, and the wisdom within my own being, like really accessing the truth of who I am, which is one of the great gifts that come from putting your voice on a platform, your soul's voice on a platform like a podcast. Thank goodness I made a better choice. And we're thriving today, but I almost didn't. So I just encourage you, if there's any of those things that resonate with you, don't allow them to stop you. The world right now, especially, we're needing the collective leadership that is available with all of our soul's voices in service to humanity in a bigger way. The top-down model's moving out, and we're coming in to serve together and evolve us forward. So let's dive now into the high vibe podcasting secrets. So secret number 1, have an intuition-driven show. And this means really making sure that every aspect of your show is aligned with your own soul. I often see podcasters make this mistake where, I've been guilty of this too, so no judgment, but where, let's just say we design their show from should, right? Or fear of missing out, or FOMO, as I like to call it, or mindlessly following what someone else is doing that is having them have success without checking it against our own intuition and what feels aligned. And what happens when we do this is our energy is bent, and we don't attract the same way that we would when we do something that is completely aligned with ourselves, and we're living inside of the place of the joy of missing out on things that are not in alignment with us. So using your intuition to map out your show will absolutely change your life. And you're going to have to learn too, what is your yes and what is your no? So a lot of people will say, great, I'd love to learn how to do a show with intuition, but I don't really know how to receive my intuition. And so one of the things that you're going to want to do is start to learn where intuition lives in your body. So for example, you can sit with something where you know is an absolute yes for you, and then just notice how your body receives that information. So if there's something in your life that you've done where you're like, yes, absolutely, that was a yes for me. I'd love for you to just to think about that for a minute, whatever that was, a decision you made where you're like, that was the right decision for me. It was a yes, or something you absolutely know is a yes for you right now. And just feel into what that yes is like for you. You know, is it something that's a localized feeling in your body? Maybe you feel it in your stomach. Maybe you feel it in your throat, your chest. Is it an overall tingly feeling? What's the feeling that is associated with that yes? Is it uplifting and move you forward? Does it move you back? Like, how does it feel? And just take note of that for yourself. And then look at, is there a sound associated with it? Do you hear a word yes? Do you hear a sound that's like musical, like whoa? Like what shows up for you when you feel into a yes and you are in your auditory senses? How do you know auditorily that something's a yes for you? And then also look at, is there something that you visually see in your mind's eye when that happens? Is there a particular something that shows up visually for you somewhere around? Is it on your left, your right, above you, below you? Like, how do you see if there's something that comes in visually? Is there a smell associated with it? Start to notice, and I would encourage you to do this more often, to start to pay attention to when you receive a yes, what it is, so you can start to understand your intuition around if something is a yes for you or a no for you. And then do the same process with something that's a no. If there's something that you are like, absolutely not. That is not right for me, or that decision I made was not the right one. How do you know that in your body? Where do you feel that? Do you feel it in your gut? Do you feel it in your solar plexus, your chest? Is it an overall feeling? Do you feel it in your throat? Maybe your throat locks up. Maybe your body constricts and contracts in some way and isn't expansive. Maybe it moves backwards or down. Like, feel what that feels like in your own body when you know that something is a no. It'll be a very clear feeling for you and familiar. And start to notice again, is there a sound associated with it? Do you hear something like no? Do you hear something else? Is there something that you see in your mind's eye? Is there an overall sensation? Is there a smell associated with it? Just start to pay attention to your five senses. Could be a taste, you never know. And note what that feels like in your body, the things that show up for you experientially when you have a no. Is it full body? Is it localized? Really pay attention. And then what I would encourage you to do is sit down and actually write out what a yes feels like to you and what a no feels like to you. And allow that to be the litmus test for everything related to your show. When it comes to programming, when it comes to guests that you're going to have, when it comes to what your show should be about, when it comes to anything related to your show. I'd love for you, just even try it for a month. Run it by your yes and your no and stick to it. Don't go against it, no matter what. Make sure that you stick to that. Once you have that established, what you'll find is that you can use that for all of these types of things, like to choose what your show to launch, to choose your guest, to decide on your show topic, decide on your best strategies for growing your show. If you are learning a new strategy, run it against how it feels in your body. Like for me, I know that it's something I'm supposed to do as a strategy if I feel expansive and open rather than contracted. If I feel uplifted and kind of pulled forward, right, by it. If I get a buzzing sensation on my body, I might feel my heart start to open. That's usually a good sign for me. If, however, I feel contracted, I feel like something is misaligned, like it's not connected to me. It's not moving through me, but it's kind of outside of me. Um, I know it's probably not the right thing for me, and it'll feel kind of like downward pushing. And I can also hear, no, I have very clear vision and sound too, but my feeling nature is usually what I lean into most, because regardless of if my mind wants to do something, my feeling nature usually will know, even if my mind logically thinks I should do something else, it will have a different feeling about it. And I have a very strong mind. I'm very right and left brained. So I have to listen to that as well. So any decision around your show, if you want to have a high vibe show and a show that naturally attracts to you what it is that you're wanting to create, this is the number one secret, is allowing your intuition to guide every decision that you make around your podcast, around your business too, around your life, I promise you, but definitely around your podcast. If you use this, it will transform the way that your show is received in the world, and it will grow your show automatically, and it will align it in a way that really serves you. So takeaway number one, your soul knows what is best for you and your show every time, no exceptions. Even if your mind says something different, I invite you to listen to your intuition. There's nowhere better to go than within for whatever you need. All of your resources are right here, right now, available to you, and you just need to ask and listen. And you'll be amazed at the well of wisdom that's there. I think so often we get so distracted with what's outside of us that we don't hear that voice of our soul that is guiding us constantly. But I know 2020 gave us an opportunity to listen even more deeply. So really utilize that as you're working on raising the vibe of your show and expanding. Secret number 2 is to be intentional. Intention will take your show so much further than anything else that you could possibly imagine. So one of the mistakes that I see a lot of podcasters make is just going through the motions. Like they're like, oh, I podcast every week on this date, or we batch these days, and these are the kinds of topics we do, and this is the routine we do where we do this SEO title searching, and we have these bumpers, and here's our headliner, clips, all of these things that we do, right? But they go through the motions. When they're doing the interviews, sometimes they'll do them back to back without even paying attention to what the intentionality is of how they want to serve their audience. And, they'll also, just basically not pay attention to what it is that they're really wanting to create with the episode for the guest too, if they're having someone come on to be interviewed. So entering episodes without intention for what you want to create really leaves the episodes feeling flat. And there's so much more that you can do just by literally setting an intention before the episode that has it work on autopilot behind the scenes. So I once heard Oprah say that she never enters a meeting without first setting the intention for it. And she's created quite a bit of success in her life for herself. And here's the thing, we may not always know what our intention is going to yield. Like we have our mind creating something for us, which is great. But intention, when we set it in a way, and I always like to add with ease, grace, joy, love, and fun at the end, because I know that whatever I'm intending will come in a way that feels good, because I've intended things in the past and they've showed up not how I've wanted them to be. But sometimes even setting an intention, we can let that force work for us on the back end without even thinking about it. So I'll share a little story with you. One of the guests that I've had on my show is Marianne Williamson, and I love her. She's just amazing, and she's been someone that I was inspired by for a long time with her work with A Course in Miracles. And I went to hear her speak when she was running for office of the president, right? And I remember being in there listening to her talk, and I was looking around the room, and I was like, wow, I have way more listeners than are in this room right now. And I was thinking I would love to put them in front of her, because she's such a beautiful light, and have her be able to speak to them on my show. And I was like, well, I don't know how, right, to make that happen. So I was like walking out, and I mentioned it to a friend of mine, and I was like, all right, well, here's my intention, universe. If that is meant to happen and it would be in the highest and best for all involved, make it so. And I just let it go. And, it was interesting because my friend had said the same thing to me when we were leaving, that she thought the same thing would be a good idea. And so I went about my life and didn't think about it. And I was in Washington, D.C. visiting family, and my uncle came to me and he's like, I'm doing this training. And he said, I have a game in the world now where I want to support Marianne Williamson with her candidacy in the presidential election. And he said, I was wondering if you would be one of my, the committed listeners, someone that was listening for that to happen. And I said, I'm always on your team. Whatever you need, I'm here for you. Right. He's someone I just love and adore. And so whatever I can do to support you. And I said, I do have a podcast that would probably be perfect for her with my audience. If there's any way that I can serve with that, let me know. And I just let it go. And he actually went and traveled around and saw her and set it up where she ended up coming on my show. And that was nothing that I had strategized about, taken action on. This happens a lot in my life where it's just literally you set the intention and you listen for how the universe is going to deliver that back to you. And with our show, we can absolutely do that. So, and that wasn't like a strategy. It was just setting an intention for what would be in the highest and best. And if you do that with your show on the episodes, even if you come in and do an activation or, a prayer, however you want to call it in, where you start to set the energy for what's in the highest and best for your listeners, for the interview guest, for whatever message it is, that it serve in the biggest way, you'd be amazed at what happens behind the scenes to work that out. And I could not have intellectually, created that in any way. That was just allowing the vibe to set the pathway forward. So lesson number 2, setting your intention allows an unseen part of you, and I like to call it that, you can call it whatever you want, to work on your behalf while you take the inspired action that you're drawn to take. It works like magic, truly, in your own experience, and begins to bring things to you that you would not ever expect. So you can do your show without being intentional, or you can do it with intention. This is a big takeaway. And intention will give you far more alignment and better results than anything you could create with an unintentional action on its own. And I love this little picture here. This is actually a gift that came from one of the people that was on my show. It's fun when you're a podcaster, just as a side, to get gifts from people that come on your show or listeners. That's always nice. Secret number 3, only do what you love and what feels good when it comes to your podcast. Because when we do what we love and what feels good, we're in an expansive place and we attract from a very different vantage point. I see a lot of podcasters try to save money, and trust me, I did this for many, many episodes, or feel like they need to do everything because we may be capable. Obviously I'm highly technical, but I'm also, I can do editing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I should, right? That's true for a lot of us. And what I found is that doing everything will oftentimes block the flow that's wanting to come to us, and can even cause pod fade, where people will actually quit doing their show because it's a lot of work and something that they don't enjoy. So do what you love and what feels good to you. You'll attract so much better from that place. And you will naturally be in the place of receiving so much good into your life for your show. Your show will expand and it will naturally attract the audience from that place of resonance versus resistance. So I'll just share another story with you. So I spent, I don't know how many episodes, it was probably in the 70s. I used to know the number, but I've been podcasting for so long now, I've forgotten. But a lot, let's just say a lot of episodes before I decided to outsource editing. And I was doing all my own editing in GarageBand on my Mac. And literally if I had like an episode that was, say an hour, which is a round number, it would take 2 hours to edit the show. So about double the time that it would take me to record it is how long it took me to edit. There's this great new tool now called Script, where you can speak your podcast in and literally edit the text, and it changes the audio, which is fantastic. If you haven't checked that out, it's Descript app. I'm a bit of a techie nerd, so I love these things too. But what I found was when I was doing that, I was only getting like one guest, backlogged at a time. So I would have like one interview this week, and then I'd have another interview next week lined up, but I wasn't receiving a lot of guests that were kind of pre-scheduled. And I was thinking, this is really crazy. You'd think, I would have a lot more people lined up, right? This is a great show. But what I found was I finally decided to outsource the editing, and I got an editing team, and the very next time, so at the end of the episodes, one of the ways that I grow my show is at the end of the episode, I'll say, hey, now that you've been on the show, and kind of what it's about, who do you know that would be your top number 1 or 2 recommended people for the show? Because oftentimes the people that you listen to will be in alignment with what you love. And the interview guests that you really enjoy interviewing, a lot of times will have people that are aligned with them that you'll love as well. So it's an easy way to grow your show. And they have a good feel for what your show's about at that time. And so, I get maybe 1 recommendation at the end of them, but this time I got 10 and it just started flooding in. I started getting all of these people coming to me. And now I have like a backlog, I don't even know, 100 and almost 200 people maybe in a database that I have set aside that I can pull from when I want to do more interviews. I've been kind of picking them off when I want to do them now, but then it was amazing to see, just by not being in resistance to having to edit that many shows, I started to have more flow. I was actually resisting and didn't even realize having more guests, because to me it meant on a energetic level that I was going to be putting more time in to editing, and I didn't enjoy it. When I had the editing outsourced, I was like, oh, interviewing, I love that. I'll do that. And so I started to get a lot more flow. So we don't always know too what we're blocking when we are not outsourcing those parts. And if you haven't checked it out yet, Jen has an amazing course, The Front Row CEO, and she does a lot of work with teaching you how to create your team in a way that is, a beautiful strategy. Again, check to see if you're aligned with it. We always want to run things by that first, but she has some great resources available for that too. And team will change your life if they are aligned with you. And so I really encourage you to intuitively do that course if it's something that you feel called to. So only do what you love. When you're doing that, it'll be in a great place. If that's just interviewing, if that's recording your episodes, if that's, if it is editing. I had one student actually, out of all the students that I've had, that loves editing. And I'm like, you should edit. But the majority of the students that I've had for podcasting have been not interested in doing that. So it's really not their gift. And if anything, it pulls them out of flow with creating their show and growing it. So outsource those pieces that you don't love. You will attract so much better. And again, check out Jen's program. If you don't have team already that you can train to have hired, or if you are wanting to grow more of your team or do it in a more systematized way, it's a fantastic program. And the takeaway here is doing what you don't love will slow the growth of your show and push away what naturally wants to come in to bless you. And if you don't love to edit, do show nights, any aspect of podcasting, outsource it. And if you don't like a certain format of show, like maybe you're like, I actually don't like interviewing, or I don't like doing solo episodes, or any of the above, then change your format and do a format that you do love, because your audience will naturally, that you're meant to serve and attract, will naturally love what you love. So set up your show that way, in a way that feels good to you, and it'll feel good to the ideal audience for you. Secret number 4, it's all about the tone. And I love this. I often see podcasters get stuck on the tech, or having the perfect wording for their episode title, their cadence maybe they think is off, the quality of the audio is not right. You name it, it somehow needs to be better or perfect. When I'm helping them launch their shows, I hear this a lot. And this can actually cause people to wait to launch, or to miss out on their own authentic expression of their soul's voice in their show, because they're so concerned about the delivery of the exact pieces of it. But one of the things my dad has always said to me is, what matters most is the tone that you bring to a room. He used to always say, if you're going to go into a room, focus on the energy that you're bringing in with you, because people will feel that so much more than what it is that you're saying. And this is really true for podcasts too. I used to focus on this a lot when we were speaking live and in person, because it's something that I naturally do. I did if you have a unique ability, one that sets you apart, what would it be? And I was always getting, when I'm around you, I believe anything's possible. When I'm with you, I want to be the best version of myself. And more so recently, I hear things like, oh, your voice, I want to take your voice and go to sleep to it. Or you bring a blanket of peace over me. when I'm around you? These are things that I hear about the tone. And I encourage you, if you haven't actually asked those questions to people, if I have a unique ability, one that sets me apart, what would it be? If there's anything around that has to do with your beingness, for sure take note of that. Because a lot of times, in the past, I just discounted that. I'm like, great, well, that's all being. What do I do with that? Right. And if you have something you can do with it, it's easier. Like, okay, well, you're amazing at XYZ skill set, right? It's going to be way easier to be like, oh, okay, that's what I'm supposed to work on and do, right? When you're figuring out. But if it's like, well, this is how I feel when I'm around you, or what opens up for me, it's sometimes more challenging to figure out what that is. But the truth is, if you get that, you probably have a superpower in that area too, something that you're bringing to people. Like with my father, if he walks in a room, you're like, I trust him, because you can trust him. He is like walking trust. He walks in a room and you feel safe. And that, I think, is true of, there's certain people, when you're around them, you feel a certain essence. Find out what that is for you. And 9 times out of 10, if that's a part of who you are, that's going to be the tone that you're bringing to your show. That vibrational resonance that people are going to feel whenever they're around you, they'll feel through your show as well. They'll feel it through your voice. It could be like a tone of joy. It could be you get excited when you're around, a certain person. What is the energy and that tone, that vibrational essence, or the vibes that come out through you to your show? Know that and recognize that that's probably a part too of your brand, whatever you're putting out in the world. What matters more than anything that you say on your show, if that is one of your gifts, is the vibration that you are bringing to your show. Our voice, when we are sharing it on our podcast, when we're sharing it in a room of people, it doesn't matter where we're bringing our voice, is a physical instrument that is literally coming out in a sound wave and physically touching another person. Even if it's over the airways of the podcast into the earbuds, if it's coming in through the speakers of the car, it's touching someone, physically in their room, in their space. We're literally sharing vibration with someone. And it goes deeper than our voice. It comes to the essence of who we choose to be when we come to a show. And intention, if you intend, when you come into an episode, to bring a tone that is uplifting to someone, it's going to shift how you show up. It's going to shift what they experience. So really bringing that tone to your podcast is going to have the impact of your podcast be that much more amplified and magnified as you share your soul's voice in the world through your soul's voice through your show's voice. Lesson number 4, people will be moved by how you touch them vibrationally, emotionally, and that tone that you bring. The rest of it is really window dressing. The things that we are worried about with the tech pieces and the audio. Yes, good audio is important. I totally agree. But what's more important is the tone that you're bringing through that audio, right? What's more important than if you have an or an is, how did you leave that person feeling? What did you bring to them, the essence of your own energy, and how did you show up for them? So you can set the energy of your show with that intention, as we mentioned. And as you enter the airwaves and reach your audience, the soul's tone will be, so much more deeply reaching them than the words alone. I do this a lot when I'm speaking of even like sending out a light when I'm going to go into a room to talk, and you can do this to your podcast too. I will literally, before I get on stage, envision the room filled with light. And I will literally, if I might have done it actually physically before and gone and touched each chair and put a blessing on each person, that I serve them in the highest way. But you can envision that in your mind's eye too, just blanketing across the room if you don't have time for that. You can do the same thing with your podcast. When you are going onto the airwaves with an activation beforehand, and I talk a lot about this in what I do for my show, everything that you are creating when you get on is have it bless them in the highest possible way to serve them on their journey of whatever journey you're taking them on. For me, it's the journey of spiritual entrepreneurship, for example, that the episodes serve them in the most deeply profound way that it can to support them on that journey. You can send light out ahead of you. It'll be felt no matter when they listen to the episode. It's pretty amazing what's available to us that we don't always use to serve the people we're meant to serve. So takeaway number 4, one of the most important practices that you can have is setting the tone of your episode in advance, like we were just talking about, and learning and expressing that voice of your soul on the regular. So really paying attention to what it is, like do some discovery that is your gift and use it on a more regular basis in terms of blessing other people. You can do this by setting up your show with intention and energy activation like we talked about, or by feeling into your episode as much as you think into your episode, right? Feel into it as much as you think into it. Secret number 5, you can use your platform to deeply serve your audience and spiral up consciousness. By doing this, you'll be amazed at the support that you will receive. My grandma used to always say, if you're feeling down, go and do something nice for someone else and you'll feel instantly better. And that's because something flows through us when we give to another, right? So I often see a lot of podcasters who are so focused on either filling the air with the noise, of picking a topic that they think will be acceptable, like my audience really will love this, or, doing some SEO and being like, this is a hot topic, rather than what will serve their audience in a deeper way and is in alignment with their soul's voice. So by all means, do SEO research, go online, look up what's going to be a great topic, and then check it against your yes or no. And that's going to guide you into what's best for your audience. You can even ask the question, will this deeply serve my audience, and get a yes or no? Will this serve my show's growth? Yes or no? Does it lift me up and move me forward? Does it bring me and contract me and move me back? Even if it looks good in the rankings, maybe it's not what I am meant to speak. Maybe it is. I see podcasters also doing transactional guesting for audience numbers. Like, if I pick this audience, potential interview guest, they have an audience of, 250,000, people that are supposedly similar to mine. Makes a lot of logical sense, but internally, maybe you feel like that's a no, right? Don't do it. If it doesn't feel right to you, don't do it. They'll do it for creating connections with people. They'll focus on making money from ads. That may actually be drawing to your audience, depending upon if it's a yes or no intuitively for you. So really utilize that, not really knowing what will truly serve your listeners, and doing these things in that way and saying yes to guests because you don't know how to say no. I did that for a long time, as I mentioned. Now I'm way better at that. I actually have a whole canned response in Google that I use, and I have a place where people can come, and then I feel into what guests I want to bring on without having to make an in the moment decision, which is really important for me. So know your process. So let go of the FOMO, the fear of missing out, the misaligned strategies, and instead focus on serving your audience deeply with your own light and your gifts, and watch your show grow like wildfire as you do this. So there's something that I've seen happen when we start to move into service for another human being. It's like these unseen forces literally come into service. And I know this all sounds a little out there, but just stick with me for a minute. If you've ever, when 2 or more of us come together in a mastermind, right? There's like a third party that's there that helps us to create. That's just the facts of how things work when we come together. When we create anything in life, we create it with other people. And when we're coming from a place of doing something that's in alignment with what our soul's voice is naturally anyway, in service to another, it's expansive. And especially when we come together to do that, with a bigger mission and a bigger intention. And that's really what our show can be, is a bigger mission and intention platform for what it is that we're meant to do. So if you let go of the strategies of the lists and the numbers and the, all of that, the listens, I get analytics is important. Trust me, I'm right and left brain. However, the most important thing that's going to help you make the right decisions for your show is your intuition. And when you're coming from a place of service with your soul's voice, your show will grow so much faster. So it's easy to lose sight of whom your show serves and really just focus on, the guest topic, to get focused on the strategy. Your audience and what they need and how you can use your show to help them is paramount of importance. So they're really there as the listener, and without them on the other end, why even have a show, right? So this will help you grow your purposeful work in the world, to have your audience grow. And when you serve them, they'll come back. When you serve them, they'll tell their friends. So I know it sounds really simple, but it's important to keep focus on that no matter what's going on and what other strategies you're hearing about. So focus deeply on serving your audience, and you'll be delighted by how quickly your show grows. And again, moving from FOMO, fear of missing out. I heard someone share this JOMO, I love, joy of missing out, where you're really focusing on the things that serve your audience and keep you focused on things that are really the most important for growing your show. So today what we covered, we have secret number 1, have an intuition-driven show. Secret number 2, be intentional. Secret number 3, only do what you love and what feels good when it comes to your podcast. These are all high vibe podcast secrets. And then secret number 4, it's all about the tone. And secret number 5, use your platform to deeply serve your audience and spiral up in consciousness, and your show will grow so much more naturally for you. And then as a bonus, we've all raised our vibration together just by being in this conversation. There's things that are shifting on an energetic level as we even share this here today. So thanks for being in this conversation with me. So let me ask you a question. Are you ready to shift the podcast vibes and align your show's voice with your soul's voice? I know Jen asked us all to make an offer that will give you a way to move forward with what we've talked about. And something that's just something really special for her community. So if it's okay, I'd love to share that with you. If this is something that was resonating with you and you feel like, wow, I'd love to learn more about it, just stick with me for a few more minutes. I'm going to walk you through something. So I created this very special offer for you. However, this is probably not for you. If you think that energy is just way too woo-woo for you, you're probably not going to enjoy what I'm going to share with you. Or if you only value success when you have to work super hard for it. There are some people that are like, if I didn't work hard for it, I didn't earn it, I don't want it. This will not be for you if that's the case, because this is like more of the easier journey. It's more of the inflow journey. And then if your focus is only on making money, this is not going to be for you either, because I'm really focused on serving humanity with the voices of our souls collectively. And that's more what I source. Money is great. You'll make it, but that's not the number one thing. And then if you don't really care about serving your audience, but you're really more focused on just growing your numbers, this isn't going to be right for you either. But it is perfect for you if you want to create a show that is aligned with your soul and your purpose and your life vision. If you're open to working with energy, or you absolutely love working with energy, this is going to be great for you. Or you want to serve your audience with your unique gifts and awesomeness, and you're willing to learn something new from yourself. I'll teach you stuff, but where it's really going to come is from within you. So my vision for you is that your high vibe podcast is lighting up the world with amazing interviews and your unique soul's voice. My vision is that you are easily attracting and serving your perfect audience in a way that feels so good to your soul, and that it spirals up consciousness on our planet as you are doing this work, and that you, my friend, are living a life so very deeply fulfilled with ease, grace, joy, love, and fun in a way that just, lights you up from the inside in every corner. So to do that, one of the things that I've created is it's a mini course and a guide. It's really easy to afford and do. You're going to see just how ridiculously easy it is to afford and do. It's a high vibe interviews guide and mini course, and it's simple. What happens is you log into a private membership area. I greet you with a welcome video. Next, you download this beautiful guide, which I'll show you in a minute, and you go through each section of the mini course one by one. And as you do that, it's going to guide you through filling out your guide. Okay. And this guide is not designed to necessarily just give you strategy. It's designed to elicit what's right for your soul, for your show, to align your soul's voice with your show's voice. It will naturally help you to set the energy of your show and your interviews in alignment with your soul's voice in a way that feels oh so good. And you will naturally attract your soul tribe with your show, with your show's new vibe. So it sounds amazing what you'll receive when you enroll. This is what you get. You get this 39-page of awesome printable, fillable PDF guidebook. This is what it just looks like, some of the pages, but you can see in here, we've got a lot of different things that are going to help you to create the questions for your show, put together your show practices, a way that you can reach your guests energetically and your interview guests as well as your audience, a place for capturing guest notes, how you can pick your perfect time for your show that's in alignment with your own soul, a high vibe checklist for pre, during, and after the interviews, a whole bunch of different things. It's going to help you do visioning for your show. It's pretty amazing. And I'm picking the perfect topics that are in alignment and with your yes and your no and what's meant to be shared with your audience. This exclusive memberships area is also there. This is where you go in and access all of your content. It's password protected. You can go there anytime you want from your smartphone or your Kajabi, under Kajabi mobile app or on your computer. And also the training videos that I walk you step by step through how to fill these different sections out and what to be thinking about as you're doing that to help you really design your show from the wisdom within you in alignment with your audience. And then I also, if you don't like learning from video, some people, hey, podcasters, we like audio a lot. So I also have an audio version of these. So you can take the guide and just listen auditorily if that's more comfortable for you. Some of us prefer that. So let me ask you a question. You can take one or two paths. You can either keep doing what you've been doing and strategize your way through what you want to create. And this is whether you use the guide or not, really. Or you can use this guide and what we've talked about today or the course to help you to reset your show's vibe and attract your ideal tribe from your soul's voice. So this is a choice point, whether you get the guide or not. I really want you to think about what path am I going to take moving forward? The enrollment for the course is now open, and it's normally a $197 course. It's really new. A lot of people actually have not even had access to it yet, but I've shared it with one community and that's it. So now it's here for you. And Jen asked to do something very special. So I'm giving you guys it for $27, which is pretty ridiculous. But I think it'll really help you. And I'm really excited to see what you do with it on your journey with this amazing high vibe interviews that you can create and share in the world. So also a bonus for you. I'm also going to give you, I talked about how you can set the energy for your show for Jen's community. And you need to make sure, by the way, to get that price and to get the bonus that you use the coupon code front row on this page, deviadea.com/podvibes. You got to make sure to use that coupon code or you won't get it. There's a special bonus of an audio activation that I'm doing, which is basically how I set the energy of my show every time I'm doing an interview or an episode, how I kind of pray it in and activate that intention and energy moving forward, which will really set things on autopilot for you. So that's a bonus that you'll get as well when you sign up for the course. And if you still have any questions, you can always reach out to my team at support@deviadea.com. Again, this is the page you'll use, deviadea.com/podvibes. Again, make sure coupon code front row. That's going to be an important piece for you to get that special pricing. And I'm going to come back on camera. Okay, so now that we've covered all of that, I just wanted to take a quick minute to say thank you so much for being here with me today. You are an extraordinary, amazing human to be doing a high vibe podcast and sharing your energy and your unique soul's voice with the world. And I just honor you for choosing to do that, especially in today's time. We really need your voice. We need your light in the world. So thank you so much for who you be in the world, the message that you share, and the purpose that you're on. I look forward to continuing the journey. If there's anything that we can do to support you, you can always reach out to my team too at support@deviadea.com. Thanks so much for having me today, Jen. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. To be continued.